Kayla, and today I'm going to be talking about 3 objects from my everyday life that I think have usability issues. To start, we have my 2014 Ford Escape, specifically the dash interface. Here you can see I have the steering wheel, the gauges, our climate control buttons, the touch screen, controls for the radio, and the gear shift. A couple of issues I've noticed are the size and the feeling of the buttons, the touch screen, and how far it's set back into the dash, the steering wheel, and how likely it is to block the speedometer if you move it up or down, the shapes of the vents, and the overall spacing and layout. Here's a better up-close picture. In the first picture on the left, my hand is relaxed on the gear shift and I can reach just fine. However, in the next picture, when I lean over to go reach the touch screen, my arm is fully extended and I'm leaning forward even though I'm sitting pretty close to the steering wheel. So it's not flush. The screen itself isn't flush with the rest of the dash. It's kind of set back. You can see better in this picture. It's moved back quite a few inches. And then we have a top lip here and a bottom ledge. It kind of creates like a ledge, and it's not really helpful because when you go to reach for buttons at the bottom of the screen, my fingers accidentally always touch the buttons that control the radio, which is like this little volume knob here and these flat tune buttons and the source button. And then even though it creates this ledge, you think it would be helpful for storage, but anything you put on top just touches the screen, so it just changes the buttons. And then I'm not sure if they set it back to make the cabin feel like more spacious or if it's to help with the glare from the sun. But I have a setting on my car where it like auto adjusts to the light and the time of day, so you're always able to see the screen regardless. Next we have the air vents. The placement is kind of awkward in my car. Like the one below near my hand in this picture kind of just points to the cup holder, so it's not super helpful. And then the top skinny vents don't move like far enough right and left, so they only have like really one direction. And then in the yellow here circled other buttons, they're all pretty flat and are like relatively the same. So when I'm driving and not looking at the buttons, because I'm obviously looking at the road, it's kind of hard to feel which one's which. And then they don't make any noise or like clicking feeling when you touch them, so it's kind of hard to tell. So I don't really use them when I drive. And next is the placement of gauges. In the red box we have the digital speedometer, and in the yellow circle at the bottom we have the fuel gauge and the temperature gauge. I've noticed if you move the steering wheel up or down, it will block one or the other. If they were switched, maybe it would be a little more helpful for people who are at different heights. So I'm about 5'7", so if you're shorter or taller than me and have to move the steering wheel, you'd probably be blocking the digital speedometer while you drive. The next object is my Keurig K-Duo Plus coffee maker. It's a little overview of what it looks like. Some issues I've noticed are the lack of contrast on the buttons, the lack of symbols and feedback, no markings on the pot. Here's some more pictures. We have the mesh reusable liner for ground coffee, the K-cup pod holder, and then we have the buttons. Notice that the buttons are not backlit, so when you're looking at them in regular overhead kitchen lighting, like in the right side picture, it's really hard to see the contrast between the numbers like 6, 8, 10, and 12 to the rest of it. If they were in white or backlit, it would be easier to read. Also, the middle circle button here, that's K, is to brew your coffee, but it doesn't say brew or like start or go or any type of information that would indicate that. So it was kind of hard. I was just pressing random buttons when I first got this to figure out how it worked. There's also this like strong button to make your like the flavor of the coffee stronger, but it doesn't tell you like by how much. There's no gauge for that. The buttons 6, 10, 12, or 10 and 12 indicate cups and ounces depending on if you're using the coffee pot or a single cup, but that isn't clearly labeled here. On our old coffee maker we had like little mug pictures on each one so you could see like how much water would be coming out. And then the screen doesn't say like finish brewing or anything, so you just have to like wait till it stops making noise. There's not really any other feedback. And then the coffee pot itself is more of a thermos, so you can't see through it as it's not glass. There's no markings. You can't tell how much is in there or how long till it's full. And then lastly, the last object I have is the Conair curling iron. There's a toggle numbered 1 through 25 on it that is supposed to be like the heat temperature scale, but it doesn't say the max temperature that it reaches. It just says 25, which isn't really helpful. It's also confusing to turn it on and off because there's a little red light, and when you press it on, it goes red, but then it turns off immediately and it doesn't heat up. I learned that you have to hold the on button for 3 seconds for it to begin heating, and when it's at full temperature, it will turn green, but like that's just from playing around with it. It's not super obvious when you first start to use it. There's also an auto off function, but I'm not sure like how long till that kicks into effect. So when you do try to press the off button, it's still hot, like it won't turn off. You just have to unplug it from the wall. And then of course the scale from 1 to 25, usually on other curling ones, it tells you like low, medium, high heat, and then like if the temperature, the highest one's 420, the lowest one's probably like 210 degrees. So it kind of gives you a gauge for your hair type on which one to use. This one's like just 1 to 25. Like what is 25? We don't know what that is. We don't know what 1 is. There's no specific temperatures. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.